Thank you. Hi, good morning, everyone. And this is Ravi Verma here. We'll be taking classes on your secretarial audit. So before we go ahead, I just have few things to share with you because yes, good morning, everyone. I received the number of messages on my chat box. So I convey my good wishes and this morning to everyone. Now, before we proceed, I will just say few things like it is a crash course. So we should be very careful that we will try to cover these subjects in a smart way to cover up the entire curriculum by the time we have slotted for. And second thing that the chat box is there, I have noticed because I have taken number of classes in past. So from my experience, I'm just saying that whenever you are really want to connect to me, do send me through chat. Otherwise, the moment like we are discussing something and you are sending the chat, it may lose its tandem. So that is my earnest request. And the third is that whenever you have a query, just keep your query in your mind. At the end, we will always take your query and will make myself available to answer all your queries. Like queries which few queries which come into mind during the session is that, sir, how should we write the answer? How we can cover the entire syllabus? How we should prepare ourselves? So these are the common query which I'll take extreme end of the entire classes. So please reserve this slot for the end and whatever like other guidance, sir, should I use write in this way? Should I use the chat? Should I use the bullet forms? We will discuss all this at the end of all these classes. But prior to this, we will touch upon the other areas of secretarial audit, and then we will move to the normal queries, the common queries at the end. I can see the chat box now only started with the query. So I will request keep your queries in hold. I'll definitely answer. And now, as today we will deal the secretarial audit chapter. We all know what this chapter is all about. The name suggests itself, the secretarial audit. That means part of audit doing in overall to ensure that compliance of the corporate framework is there. We all know whenever we discuss, we do talk about the corporate governance. We always talk about the corporate governance, corporate governance, corporate governance. But what do you mean by the corporate governance? We have studied in our other subject. Corporate governance is the pillar, is the, you can say, the measure or framework of transparency, the wider information to the stakeholders, and how you built up your corporate governance image, the brand image, goodwill depends on your compliance management. And once the compliance management framework is good, then you can say that company will auto which is will have a good image as well as a good will. So this is in short why this secretarial audit and compliance management and due diligence is an important chapter for us. Next thing comes is that there are 20 chapters. Which chapter we should study, which we shouldn't, which chapter we should focus more and which we shouldn't. I will say don't leave any topic untouched. You should rather clear entire curriculum. You should check the entire part so that whenever in exam any questions come from any corner, we should be able to write something on that. And trust me, this subject, the secretarial audit, compliance management, and due diligence, is very interesting. You will find it too interesting because it is more or less like every time we will talk about how to build up the image, how to ensure that compliance are there in the line that we will be dealing with. And today As we move ahead, all these classes will be for 3 hours. You all are aware of it because you are attending. But today, being the first day, I will keep it till 10:30. So we will complete by that. And the next classes, the schedule will remain same. That is till 11:30. So let's move ahead. I will quickly take you to the 20 chapters and how we will go. Today we will start with the basic chapter so that those who are from and those who are from new one, they will understand both what exactly the corporate governance is and what exactly the compliance management is. Why the compliance management is necessary? Is it is clear? Is it clear now? See, my request will be there. Like if people are saying yes, I do take it yes. Many are saying yes, and the others are having issues. So maybe some people who are having issue, they need to check at their end also the connectivity issue. Yes. So I move ahead. As I told you, there are 20 chapters. How we will deal these 20 chapters? There is a compliance management, which is a part A for your new syllabus, and it consists of 40 marks. And there is the another chapter, another part, that is part B, mainly focusing on the audit aspect and the compliance aspect. That part is of 60 marks. So these 40 and 60 makes it 100. The audit part and the compliance part, that is due diligence, that we will do later on. Today we will start with the part 1, that is part A of your study mat, which consists of 40 marks. There are like normal definitions of compliance framework, compliance, documentation, KYC, etc. And the second part is basically the secretarial audit and due diligence. Because when we talk about the compliance management, next question in your mind should be, how come you will know that compliance management is perfect or not? That audit will certify, that the auditor will give. And that is why it is called the role of a secretarial audit. Because otherwise, without the secretarial audit, how you will identify whether your compliance management is fit or not? Say maybe tomorrow I will say that my compliance management is absolutely okay. Now, how come I know? I need to have authenticity. I need to have someone who can say me, yes, this is what the secretarial, this is what the perfect practice of compliance management. Now, as I requested earlier also, I will request you that please have your queries limited and to be very specific. If you have so much of query, I will like to address these queries at first. Many people are saying, sir, is this in the old syllabus also? I will say, have not you read the end chapter of your old syllabus, which says and compliance management, the last chapter of your old syllabus? Penultimate subject of your old syllabus is such and such, status report. So these are the common topic where we are dealing about the compliance part. It is not that we are doing something which is purely for the new and not for the old. Clear? So now I'm making a move ahead without further like deliberating on this. Today we do in the last subject and the penultimate, that is the second last subject of your old syllabus. Now coming back to the compliance management chapter, I will take you to the first chapter itself. The first chapter is all about the compliance management, and today, trust me, I am telling you, you will find this secretarial audit very interesting. Like secretarial audit, I will say is the most interesting subject so far in the professional course. because it is more or less like framework, more or less like how you set up the system, more or less how you do the audit. You need to have practical aspects in your mind. Now, taking to the straight away to chapter 1, let's come to the compliance framework. See, when I talk about the compliance framework, there are, you can see on the screen, there are two aspects of this. One is of the system, the second one is management. When I say system, system means some questions. Yeah, I'm going back to this. So now, when I talk about the system, system has three parts. And in between, when we are doing this like roundup classes, I will request to note it immediately also. The management has three parts. One is compliance program, the second is reporting, and third is audit. So these are the three parts of a compliance management system. Again, I'm repeating, it's for system. When I talk about the management, management has a different thing. Management means how you assure that there exists process. So first, let's talk about the compliance management system. So it has three parts: compliance program, reporting, audit. Now, what is program? Program means the policy and the procedure, how you comply with. That is a compliance. Second, what is the reporting? Reporting is how we report, how we disseminate, how we make it available to the common public. And third is called compliance audit. What is audit? Audit is checking the level of compliance. As I told you, how you will assure, like tomorrow you will come and you will say, sir, audit is means I am doing a better compliance management. I will not believe in that. Once my audit is done, then I will have a word, and then I will believe in your word that you are right. So this is what the compliance management system. Three pillar: program, audit, reporting. Sir, beside this system, do we need anything? Yes, we need a framework. How you will have a system without having a framework? When we talk about a system, we need to have a first a framework. So, sir, tell us how to build that framework for compliance. See, the framework again has a three part. So, for everything you are saying three part, three part. Don't worry. Later on, we will discuss the five part also. But let's first discuss three part, three part. Three part for system, three part for framework. Sir, what are those three parts? The one is compliance chart, second is compliance advisory, and third is scoreboard. Sir, what are these? Like, how does it is going to make an effective framework? It is going to be effective framework on the basis of these three playing a vital role in the creation of a good corporate compliance. Chart, advisory, scorecard. Sir, what is chart? Chart is like a ready maker for you. Like in our home, when we go for shopping, some people do have a list in their mind. Some people do have a list on paper. It will always notice that those who keep a list on paper, they always read and complete marketing completely. But whereas we keep the list on mind, we make a mistake and we may not purchase a product. Then we regret after coming back to home that, oh, so sorry, I was supposed to buy this product also, but we have forgotten. So these kind of a thing does happen when you are doing this. Clear? Like without chart, it is very difficult to comply with. You need to have a chart, like list. What are the laws applicable? What you need to do? Say Companies Act. I need to issue a lot shares. I need to make allotment of shares. Now I need to do the checklist that what is written there. First, pass a board resolution. Then, if required, go for the shareholders resolution. Once you get with the shareholders resolution, then make a subscription application, get the money deposited into separate account if required, Then allot the share once the money is realized. After allotting, issue the share certificate. So all these things you will get in a chart. That is called compliance chart. Advisory is that when I feel like this need updation, I may go for a expert review, or I may go for the updation from the external agency. This is called compliance advisory. And compliance scorecard is a self-assessment. You can write there, it is a self-assessment, like how you will rate yourself. Say, for example, we all do in our normal life. After coming back to the home, we start checking whether how many marks we will get the way we have written today. I'm sure we all do exercise this practice. After attending for the paper, we come back home and just do a normal checking that how much we will score because we know our credential well. So that is what the compliance scorecard is, that the company get a scorecard on the basis of this, that how much you have performed and how much effective your system is. So these are the three parts. So system three part and the framework has a three part. As I requested earlier, I am again requesting, some people are sending in chat box the query which may not be relevant to us, like they are saying, will this be available on somewhere? You can come on YouTube. I can come on the YouTube if you want. Tell me, I will share my link of channel. You do subscribe to it. So people are suggesting me those things. I will request, please let's focus on the curriculum first. Then we will discuss all this. So first three para for management system, three para for framework. Now next question comes, sir, out of three, which one is more relevant? Like in the framework, there is something which plays a crucial role. So sir, which one is more relevant for this corporate framework? The only one important element for this is the compliance chart. Why? Because all these are secondary. If you are not aware of what to do, how you will think that a good corporate compliance framework will be created? And that will only be created from the compliance chart. And this is why it is called a vital part of the framework. Sir, chart is so essential. Yes, preparing chart is a tedious task in compliance management. Sir, what are the other way of having a good framework? Other characteristics, or you can say the features to have a good framework. When I discuss this, I will also suggest a student to start writing the questions also, because in between, when I deliberate my sessions, in between I raise the question also. Like what I'm discussing now is the characteristics of a good compliance framework, or you can say indirectly the prerequisite for a compliance framework. So what are the prerequisite for a compliance framework? Good corporate compliance framework. The first is dashboard. Compliance dashboard means there should be a complete dashboard where I can access, and immediately after accessing I can say all the compliances are on time. Sir, how does that dashboard helps us? I will tell you, dashboard is just like if you have a means I am sure that you all are having mobile. So in your mobile, if you look at the storage status, you just go there, you will find that how much of the memory is used, how much memory is free, which all other apps are using it, and say for example, what is the database you have used. If you have used the database to the maximum limit, it will turn red, giving a warning to you, the boss, free some data from your mobile. That is what the compliance data dashboard is. It will indicate me in the pictorial kind of a thing that all the compliances are happening, all these are green. The moment it signifies something going yellow, that means alarming situation. So good framework must have a good compliance dashboard. Second prerequisite is a good corporate framework should have a good policy and procedure. If your policy is not good, how can you have a system in place? Because law cannot teach you everything. Nobody is perfectly compliant. Like say for example, when you pass by the road, do you mean to say that you always cross when there is a zebra crossing? No, but there are some people who do follow the lines, they will not cross unless or until signals is stop. जिनको हम लोग देख के बोलते हैं ये लोग ऐसे ही रहेंगे. We always think those people are very slow in their life, but they are actually following their own policy and procedure. So if you are having a good policy and procedure, then you will be able to create a good corporate framework. And the third thing is that you should have the capability that whenever there is a rule and regulation changes, your employees should come to know about these rules and regulation changes. So I will say from the examination perspective, remember three things: management system, corporate management system, three essential parts. Good compliance management program, compliance audit, reporting. Then for good corporate framework, three parts. One is chart, second is advisory. Just we now studied, sorry. The first is the part where we have studied is the good compliance chart, which will be a vital document for the entire thing. And the second is the good corporate advisory. And third is the scorecard, that is self-assessment. Now for good compliance framework, there are three important prerequisites: dashboard, policy, and access to rules and regulation. Now beside this, there are a number of things you can study. Now I will tell you how you will, like practically a question may come in the exam, that what is the way of setting up a good corporate good compliance framework, how you will set up. Say for example, you are the company secretary, advised as a company secretary that how you will set up a good corporate compliance framework. Here you need to keep in mind five things. I told you earlier three, now five. What? Just think as a normal, like a person. Don't go into too much. Just think you have been given a task, whether there is a good corporate governance or not, identify. So how I will identify? First, I will identify the compliance of regulation. Means what are those regulations which will be applicable on me? First that, because otherwise how you will check? Say for example, my company is working in a manufacturing product. So I need to be more aware of the manufacturing laws and regulation. If my company is in service sector, I need to know about the service sector compliances. First, identify the law. The five fingertips, these are the law. I say these are the compliance framework. First is to identify the compliance which are applicable. Second, prepare compliance chart. As I told you, it is a important aspect. Third is you check the historical compliance statement, like the company in past, whether complied with or not. That is called historical. Fourth is assess the risk, and fifth is compliance reporting. Sir, can you repeat just one, because we couldn't get you. हम लोग आपको सुन नहीं पाए, sir. So I will repeat it once again. That the first part is identifying the law which are applicable. Second, I prepared a chart. Third, I have also seen the status of historical compliance, means whether the company in the past has complied or not. Because see, why I am checking the historical? Maybe I am not aware of particular law, but by checking the historical aspect, I will come to know that this law is also applicable for the company. The fourth is identifying the risk, that if I do not comply, what are the risks where I can face an issue. And the fifth is compliance. So these five makes a complete hand, a strong hand of having a compliance framework. This question, the answer to means the question for this answer is that what is the procedure of setting up of compliance framework? Now come a preparation of compliance chart. This is another thing, because now I told you all the mantra of compliance management. Somebody told me, sir, you just only told us few minutes back that compliance chart is a vital part of your compliance management. Yes, you are right. Compliance chart is a vital part of your framework. Sir, how we will prepare the chart? Because in framework also, when you just a few minutes back only, 1 minute back only, sir, you told us that the procedure of setting up, somebody, see, very honestly, I know somebody is saying that to increase the ratio of Hindi also in the lecture. No worry for me. I will start increasing the ratio of Hindi, but then again, respecting the protocol of the institute, I will keep switching in between. Okay. Now continuing the topic back, that as I told you just few minutes back, the procedure of setting up of compliance framework, the first two steps, if you remember, was to identify the law applicable. Second is preparing a chart from them. Correct? This was the procedure for setting up. So, sir, first two steps are more or less compliance chart. So, why this compliance chart is so important, and now how we will prepare the compliance chart? See, compliance chart is important from one perspective, because as I told you, without having a compliance chart, how we will ensure the compliance? It is like without having the necessary ingredients, how you will prepare a good recipe? So necessary ingredients are always first thing that is required for a good recipe. And that is what the compliance chart is. Now, post this compliance chart, how you will prepare? The next question comes, how I will prepare the compliance chart? There are 5 ways of preparing it. Now, sir, you have started 5-5. Yes, I told you earlier 3-3. Now 5-5 will do. Sir, how you will prepare? First, I will identify the law applicable. That is the chart ka first thing. Because whenever I am preparing the chart, I should know what are the laws applicable. Second, I will identify the risk associated with it. Say, if I do not comply, what can be the risk? Third, I will think of mitigating the risk. Like how I can mitigate the risk. I should train people that please ensure compliance, try to do this, develop a practice that the compliance is done immediately. That is the third part of the compliance. Fourth is a monitoring. Monitoring is different from reporting. Reporting means a report that this is what happened. Monitoring is to ensure that it does happen. Like if, say, for example, chat is there in my company and there is a proper guideline that you can use it, you can follow these, what these are the compliances to be done, etc., etc. But if I do not monitor whether my colleagues are doing it or not, whether my colleagues are using the chat or not, how I will come to know that the compliance is being done by my company? So to ensure a proper execution, a monitoring is there. Like we always are in our life is being guided or monitored by our parents. Why? Because they want to ensure that we are acting in a good manner and we are doing the proper things. So these are the 5 things you can say you need to prepare the chart. Which chart? The compliance chart. Sir, this we understood. Beside this, we anything to do? Yes. Beside this, now the contents of compliance chart is there. Like what will be there in the compliance chart? This question also comes sometimes. Say, for example, a note has come in your exam for 6 marks. Like, what is the compliance chart? What are the contents of the compliance chart? And what are the like benefits of compliance chart? So I told you very thing that compliance chart is a set of principles or set of guidelines which gives a clear picture on the applicable laws, etc. You will write. Second, it may ask you benefit of compliance chart. You will write compliance chart is a vital framework of corporate governance framework, etc. Third, content. What will be the content? Content will be first there will be a reference of law. Second, there will be concise statement. Means not lengthy. Because what happened is that sometimes if I write the law itself, you will not understand. For my company people, I need to make it so simple that they should understand. Otherwise, there is no way of having a compliance chart. If I am giving you the law only to read, you will say, sir, again, it's a confusing. I need to make a concise statement. I need to identify the risk there. Means like this is a high risk item, high, medium risk item, low risk item. I will rate like this. Then how this reporting will be done? Compliance chart. And last thing, which is again a crucial thing of the entire compliance chart, is the main part is ownership. See, all the charts are there in the department. Now today, don't limit it to as a company secretary only. This compliance chart we are studying from the company's angle, from the corporate angle. So if entire compliance chart is there and nobody takes ownership, do you think I will follow? No, because then if there is no ownership of a particular item, we all wash our hands and we always say, because I am not responsible for it. So somebody has to take a responsibility, a clear responsibility that for this compliance I am responsible. Let's say for example, with the example, if it is a tax related compliance, then I will do. If it is a civic related compliance, company secretary will do. Taxation head will do. If it is a finance related, finance head will do. If it is a labor related, personal department will do. If it is a factory related, the occupier will do. So this kind of ownership should be there in the compliance chart. That is what the contents or the main part of a compliance chart. Like next comes how the company secretaries are responsible. The company secretary, in short, like a broader role is to not only prepare a compliance chart, but it will like compiling. See, company secretary may not be honestly saying responsible for the entire compliance chart, but he may be the one who will actually look into the compilation, who will actually look into the flow of this chart in the company. What is the role of a company secretary, sir? Because in exam, many a times the people have asked me how the company secretary is responsible, how the company secretary will ensure that the necessary compliance has been complied with. So I'm telling you to do the role of a company secretary. What first he will do? Identifying the law. That is the first role. That, say for example, this is the company. He will identify which are the law, rules, and laws applicable to the company. Sir, just a minute, sir. One question I have here. Okay, ask me the question. The question is, like you are saying that the company secretary is responsible. Sir, say maybe for some reason, like some industrial specific related law, tax related law, where we are not that expert or we are not into that core area. Sir, how I will ensure there the compliance? I completely understand that's very difficult for you to ensure the compliance there. In that case, there is another way. Sir, what is another way there? The another way is that at least identify the team, the legal team. You will correlate with legal team who will talk to the functional head. See, there is a back-to-back mechanism will flow. The company secretary will identify who can play a role. Then you need to communicate to the functional head. The functional head will ask their subordinate to prepare a list which may be applicable to their department. Say tax departmental head, you have asked them, boss, please prepare a compliance chart. So what they will do, they will prepare a compliance chart. That how TDS, when the TDS to be deposited, when the GST1 to be filed, when the GST4 to be filed, all these checklists they will prepare. And similarly, all these department will prepare it and you will collate it, means compile it. That is what the role in identifying. So that is the first role of a company secretary. The second is that is a parallel role of risk assessment. See, more or less, again, if I tell you the sharpest way or the best way to remember it, that if you compare this role, it is more or less like a content of a compliance chart. Compliance chart we have studied. There will be the law, etc. It will be there. Means how you prepare the compliance chart. First, I prepare a identification of a law. Second, you assess the risk. Third, you mitigate the risk. Fourth, you monitor the compliance. Fifth is compliance reporting. So more or less, like if you see, we are going in the same tandem. The first was the identification. Second, we are assessing the risk. What are the risks that can be associated with, and how that risk will be assessed? You will say, sir, again the question is coming into my mind. How I will assess the risk? How I will get this risk assessed for a particular law which is not my domain? See, you are not responsible. That again the functional head will guide you, and you need to segregate the risk into two categories. It depends on the business. There are like business risk can be identified as a critical risk, means it's a very important you have to do. Then it can be categorized as high, medium, or low. That is called the risk mitigation strategy that you need to do for the purpose of a compliance chart. Okay, the next thing comes in the mind is risk mitigation. As I told you one by one, see these steps are only coming. How to prepare a chart, compliance chart. That is what the role of a compliance officer, or you can say company secretary. Mitigation, risk mitigation was in our another part. Somebody in between, I'm interrupting. Somebody is so bothered about the break. We just started at 8:30 and now somebody is asking me again and again a break. Let me tell you, I told at the very beginning, if you join it later on, today our class is till 10:30 only. From next day onwards, it will be till 11:30. Then we will take a break. I hope it is clear to you. So that next question comes into the mitigation. The mitigation, as I told you, it is a process of understanding and developing the control. Like how we will develop and control the risk, how to reduce the risk if there is a high risk, how to mitigate the risk if the risk is so severe. The risk can be mitigated in severe way, in many ways. Say for example, if I have an internal guideline more stronger, then people are more accustomed to law. Say in a company you are working where there is a so much of policy for everything. Might be you will fed up with the policy, you will say, sir, itna policy hum kahin nahi dekhe. But at the end, you will find one good thing, that the compliance has become easy because then these people are accustomed to act. So these are the strategy which generally people use to reduce the risk, to mitigate the risk. And there are certain risks which are compliant to non-compliant, means which are related to non-compliance. Say, for example, if you do not comply, make a mistake, you can be penalized. There can be civil action on the officer and company. Even the company may be required to wound up. So these are the various risks of non-compliance. Sometimes a small question for 2 marks may come in. What are the various risks associated with the non-compliance? Now you will think 10 of times, sir, we have not studied that what are the various risks of non-compliance. Then if you have not studied, then read it right now. It's so simple, not so lengthy, not so complicated. It's easiest one. Saying pretty well that business activity, cessation of business activity, you can be penalized, civil action can be taken, imprisonment can be done. So these days, this number of things are there. So you make sure that these are the rest of non-compliance. So if question comes for 2-3 marks, you should write it. Now, fourth part, as I told you, we are studying completely that part only, how to prepare a compliance chart. So after reading the role of company secretary, please do not ask me, ki, sir, wo compliance chart kaise prepare kare? Please tell us that how to prepare the compliance chart. We are doing two things parallelly: preparation of compliance chart, and secondly, the role of a company secretary in preparing the compliance chart. Fourth part is the compliance monitoring. This is the important aspect of monitoring the compliance. How you will monitor, who will be like more so is a responsibility. In short, you can define the monitoring by way of segregating that who will be means responsible for it. Second, more thing to enhance monitoring a lot, the top management can do motivating of employees. If you are aware, sometimes the best employee award goes. In many organizations, there is a concept of awarding best employee award. Why they all best employee? Say during the particular month, if they have done extraordinarily well, complying with the law, making everything clear, and doing everything in a precise, in a good way, then they are credited with certain points, certificates from the top management, and that gives more and more enhancement in the, you can say, process of doing the betterment for the company. So that the level or duty of a top management. Here, legal and senior managers are also involved. What the legal should do? A legal should do a continuous review of system and policy. Say, for example, you have mentioned some law. Now there is a checklist. There is a framework that these are the steps you should follow. But if these steps still mentioned in the list are complicated and people are not able to understand, then what happened is that they will not be able to identify, they will not be able to comply with because they're not able to understand what the law is saying. So the legal cell duty is to check it regularly, make sure that the compliance happens in a smooth way. It should be easily available to everyone. And similarly, this functional head, what they should do, they should motivate the employee, and more so, they will also be responsible for updating it because more than preparing a chart is a question of updating. Say, I have prepared a chart. Now, chart is there, and I'm not updating it. And you people, you the students of the company secretary profession, you know better. अभी तो इतने amendments आते हैं, updates आते हैं. Now you are asking me number of queries on the updates. Tomorrow you will have some other queries on the updates, and because of the amendments, you also cause that you will have to study a lot for the examination purpose. So similar thing, if these updations are not incorporated in the chart, how you will have effective chart? That is the next job of finance management head, to ensure updation. That is called compliance monitoring. And the last is compliance reporting. That means giving a report whether you have complied on it or not. See, compliance reporting is also done in a part. In short, I will not read out the entire things of study mat. I will say it's a back-to-back certification. Back to back. Because under the Companies Act, it is the duty of company secretary to report the compliances to the board by giving a certificate every quarterly. A company secretary is required to give a certificate under the Companies Act 2013. Now, how come company secretary will give a certificate for everything? Means in my company, pollution, environmental, everything's are there. How I will be responsible for that? So what he basically do, he takes a certificate from the functional head. Functional head gets a certificate from the owners. Like say, for example, I am the functional head. I've asked my 10 people, hey boss, please sign it and give it to me that you all have complied. Once they give me this confirmation, I sign a certificate and I give it to the, say for example, CFO, maybe CS. Then CS basis on this certificate, assign a certificate and give it to the board. Once from all the department, these certificates come. And this is called back-to-back certification. And this is the good framework for compliance reporting. A question may come in minds of people and they will ask me, sir, tell me one thing, why not company secretary can sign entirely? No, how can company secretary? There are so many things. Say, for example, there are taxation compliance, there are level of compliances, there are some compliance which are irrelevant or not related to this aspect. How company secretary will ensure the compliances with this? So that is why a back-to-back certification is necessary. Back-to-back compliance confirmation is necessary. I hope it's clear. So in short, preparation of chart and the role of company secretary is in 5 ways. First, identifying the law. Second, risk assessment. Third, risk mitigation. Fourth, compliance monitoring. Lastly is the compliance report. This is what called the compliance chart. Sir, in compliance risk, how you will ensure that the risk is controlled? See, more or less, in short, I'll tell you, compliance management is associated with the risk. If you do not manage the compliances, there will be high risk. And we studied in this class only, there are several risks associated with the non-compliance, like penalty, like civil action, like closure of company, imprisonment of officer. So these are the risks. In short, compliance management is a supporting system to the risk management. If you want to say that in your company 100% risk management exists, then first you need to ensure a compliance framework is there. If there is no compliance framework, then you cannot say there will be a good compliance, corporate compliance management system will be there. So a risk plan has to be there in the compliance framework. What is the risk plan? The risk plan, you will do the review and identification and updation from time to time. How you will do that? You need to identify what are the risk type, like it may be high, low, critical. You need to understand how you will mitigate the risk. We have just studied in detail. Now I'll tell you one thing very clearly, that sometimes people get confused. Sir, how I will write in detail? So we just studied in detail how you will reduce the risk in the risk mitigation. Use that. Then a continuous monitoring will help you. Routine business transaction to which compliance risks are associated. That means monitoring. So all these parameters will give a quick review of risk and will help you in updation. And that is called the risk review and updation approach in the compliance management. So you will use that. How you will reduce the risk and how you will assess. Now next question comes is, in practical way, can you just tell us these steps that how I will have this plan or how I can set up a plan to reduce the risk? In examination question may come, what is the risk mitigation plan for compliance management? Again repeating, not risk mitigation plan. If it is asking only risk mitigation plan, then you will write about the risk management wala thing जो आपने risk management में separately पढ़ा है. Like in risk management chapter, you have studied particularly that there exists a risk mitigation category. That is a different. But if question comes, what are the risk mitigation strategy you will apply for monitoring or for compliance framework, then you will write this highlighted portion. What you will write? You will write it only for risk mitigation plan for compliance management. What is the risk mitigation plan for compliance management? Is first, again, a clear statement. First point is a clear statement, the law which are applicable. Second, the other activity which may be impacted because of this law, means finding out the relating activity. Third is identifying that how the risk mitigation will be managed. Fourth is that tracking. How tracking help you? Tracking is a normal course of a business activity. What is it? Tracking means, or how you will? Tracking means it's continuous review. Means how you are keeping a check, whether it is updated or not. Next is frequency of tracking. This how it is quickly updated, means how many people are tracking it, how many people are getting into it. And lastly, who all will be the recipient of this reports, who all will be involved in this. The questions to this is, what is the risk mitigation plan for compliance management. Risk mitigation plan for compliance management. Now I will tell you the next important part is in compliance management is training and implementation. I will ask you a simple question here that how relevant is the training and implementation for compliance framework? My dear students or friends, those who have joined lately, I will tell you again, I have a tendency that whenever I discuss something, I tell a question also. So please write down the question so that at the end again you don't need to ask me that please repeat the question. So whenever I am just starting the topic, I first give you the question. What can be the question? Like training and implementation. A question comes sometimes. What is the role of a training and implementation in compliance framework? Second question may be there. How effective training and implementation measure is in compliance framework? A question may be, is it necessary to have effective training and implementation for compliance framework? Yes, it is very much. If I do not train my employee, if I do not tell my people how to do this compliance, why compliance is necessary for you, why you should comply with the framework in time, why you should report it to your manager, why your manager will report it to functional head, why the functional head will give a certificate to me. So all this information, if doesn't go to the people at large, you will not have a compliance framework. Like in our family, if we want to really give a good image to the kind of a good family, then all the members needs to be good. If you are saying, sir, one member is only good, then trust me, nobody will say that the entire family is good. That means only the one person is good. So in order to make everyone compliant, you need to make sure a proper training and implementation is there. And that is why in big corporate organizations, there will be a regular training on periodical basis that how we should comply with various laws, how we should comply with the applicability of those laws, to whom we should report, who will be responsible, and if you do not comply, what can happen. Here, what are those steps? The understanding includes 5 steps again. First is that first understand the area, the framework. Second, the responsibility. The third is the identifying obligations, identification of obligation. And the fourth is the issues, concerns. And the last is if you do not comply, you will come to an end. So I generally study in a short way. Whenever people ask me why you need a training and implementation measure, I said it's a friendly. Why need to make them friendly? And from this friendly only, I remember this entire objectives. How come? F stands from making them understand framework. R stands for role and responsibility. I stands for identified obligation, and stands for that if you do not comply, what will be the consequences? Means it will come to an end. So I say always it is friendly. So you should always remember whenever people want to understand why training and communication is necessary, say it is necessary to make them friendly. I just stopped for the time being because you are asking me question and then saying sorry to interrupt in the middle. I told you that when you are writing a chat to me, I have to look at the chat. I get distracted, so I will request please let us keep this query at the end. So that is what friendly. Okay, means endly I derived the total word for the consequences, that If you do not comply, then it will end at the back. Now coming to this, post this training measures, etc., that why training and measures is required, we have studied that why there is a need. Next thing is that, sir, as you were telling at the very beginning, that there are, for a compliance management system, there are three things you need. What are the three things you need is the, for a good compliance management is, if you can remember, a good compliance management system should have three things. A good compliance management framework should have three things. What are those things? First is a compliance chart for the management system. Second is a compliance reporting, and now is a compliance audit. Chart we have studied, reporting we have studied how much reporting is relevant. Now audit. Why is audit required? Audit is a independent level of check. Means somebody saying that yes, you are doing well, is an independent assessment. That is called the audit. Now the audit is of two types. One is the statutory, that is a regulatory, and the another is a proprietary. Means you are doing something on your own beyond the law. When we say that voluntarily, I will tell you, in your book also, we always say apparent, adequate, and absolute compliance. These all three what are same: apparent, adequate, and compliance. But there is a difference between these three. So when you are doing something in absolute, means in the spirit, going beyond the law, that is called proprietary. Means something very sound, you are doing really well. And when you are doing something in compliance with the regulation, that is called regulatory. So this is what the difference, you can say the different type of audits, regulatory and proprietary. Now, significance of corporate compliance management. I will not touch upon this area because this we have studied when we have discussed so much on this. Like it will give you the good image, it will give you the goodwill, it will enhance your value in the stakeholder, it will give you the tag of good corporate citizen, it will avoid penalty, it will make the company to run with an ethical manner, it will make the company to go longer. Because some of the name of the company we all know, I will not quote here, but when the name is mentioned itself, you will feel like yes, these are the company. We all value the ethics of those companies. Why? Because they have created a brand image. How come they have created a brand image? Because of a good corporate compliance management. So this is the most significant achievement of corporate compliance management. And next comes what I was telling you: apparent, adequate, absolute. Three are AAAR. But then these three does play a role for a good compliance. Apparent is those compliance which looks like compliance has been done, but you never know whether actually has been done or not. Say for example, I may have like we all know, for a board meeting a notice to be given, a proper notice to be given, minutes to be recorded, agenda to be circulated, etc. I will have a minutes drafted, I will have a minutes recorded, I will have a minutes signed, but who knows whether actually meeting held or not. So these are apparent, looks like. When we say apparently it looks good, means superficially. So these are apparent. Adequate means a checklist wise, means though only those whatever required. Say for example, law says that you should give 7 days notice. So we give 7 days notice on. Like the law says 7 days notice to be given today. So then we take okay from today it's a 7 day, today I will comply. That is called adequate. Doing what is exactly required by the law. Absolute is something very good, which is done in both spirit and with the intent of law. That means something I'm doing voluntarily. Maybe say, for example, law is saying 7 days notice should be given, 7 days agenda paper should be given. I'm giving it 10 days. I'm following something more diligently and more voluntarily what is decided, what is prescribed under the law. Maybe say, for example, the law doesn't say for this notice to be given. There are certain items for which the board meeting intimation is not to be given to a stock exchange. But I have chosen to inform the stock exchange. That is called I am doing in law, spirit of the law. So that is called absolute. So now you understood there are three types of compliance you can talk about, henceforth: apparent, adequate, and absolute. So these are the three compliances, but having all three different nature. Now, secretarial audit and compliance management system. How come secretarial audit should be taken into the part of the compliance management? When you take the secretarial audit, there are certain aspects you need to have mind. What? First, you should look into the business. What is the business is? Second, identify the geographical area where the company is operating. Then the size of the company. That what is the size of the company? What is the like turnover, profit, investment, etc. Technology investment, etc. Where the company is operating, whether it's listed, unlisted, even for the unlisted company, the secretarial audit may be triggered. Now, for the nature of the company, whether a company is a private, public, government, etc., you need to identify. And based on this, you need to identify the secretarial auditor. The secretarial auditor will also devise a system. Say, for example, you have been given the task of secretarial audit. Now, how you will guide the company? Say, company is saying, I'm not having compliance management. Can you guide us? Then you will look is these para first, and then you will derive the mechanism. So if secretarial audit is assisting the company, the secretarial auditor will first identify this area and then will go ahead in advising the company for the desired system. That is the role of a secretarial audit. Role of company secretary in the compliance management we have started. Next is the compliances. See, compliances and compliance management is more or less similar. If you hear study also, the entire introduction part is same. You read it, the first line itself, the compliance management is a method by which corporate manage the compliance processes, say the compliance program, compliance audit, compliance report. So again, it's same what we have studied. Why there is a need for compliance management? I know that you people are on like webinar. Otherwise, I would have asked you to answer, and I'm sure everyone would have answered because we just studied the benefits of compliance management. Why? It gives, see, again same brand image, better compliance, cost saving by avoid penalty, brand image, goodwill, enhanced credit worthiness, recognition as a good corporate citizen. So these are the benefits of a compliance management. Now, sir, what is the scope? Means how broader it is. Sir, see, you have told us so far today what is the system, what is the management framework, compliance management framework, how you will frame the compliance management in an effective way, what are the contents, how the chart is, compliance chart is important, how the training is important, how the risk mitigation is important. Sir, after doing all this, we have one question in mind. What is the scope of corporate compliance? What exactly the corporate compliance composed of? I will answer on all these. The compliance, corporate compliance is having too many areas. It includes many areas like economic law, securities law, commercial law, labor law, tax law, cyber law, industry specific law, any other law, say for example, environmental law, even the separate category beside the pollution category. So these are the different areas of law where you need to comply with. So this is called the corporate compliance management. Have you got it clearly? Now I will move ahead Many times question comes, if you are writing for this, say for example, somebody, the examination question will have, what is the scope of corporate compliance? 8 marks. Sir, if I write this name 8 marks, sir, I will get only 2 marks, sir. 2 or 3 marks maximum, sir. How to score 8 out of 8? You tell us that. Or you tell us better the mechanism of obtaining 9 out of 8. So I will tell you, if it is say for 2 marks, the scope of compliance, then write only these names. But if it is for, say for example, 8 marks, then write in details also. That what is the corporate and economic law? Corporate economic law means Companies Act, FEMA, Competition Act, Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Just remember some of the names. Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Similarly, securities law, you have a SEBI. Write down all the SEBI regulations. All the SEBI regulations. Then next comes a commercial law. Commercial law, Indian Contract Act, Sales of Goods Act, which we never forget. NI Act. So just remember 2 or 3. That is okay. Then some of the fiscal or tax related law like Income Tax Act, GST. Sir, then labor law. Labor law may you write down about the code on wages, or even if you feel like write about the Factories Act, Wages Act, that will do. Then environmental related law, write down about the air, water cess. Industrial is specific, then say it depends. Say for example, a company's insurance, then it will be governed by the IDRA. If a company is banking, it will be governed by the Banking Regulations Act. If it is electricity, it will be governed by specifically electricity law. Then there might be some local law in the sense, we all know, like in a particular city, if you want to go somewhere and you want to obtain license, etc., then you need the permission. And then for that, you will be required to comply with the separate thing. And that is called the compliance with the local. So these are the scope of corporate compliance. Again, I am repeating, this question we taken is of scope of corporate compliance. Next comes how to enhance, means establish. Like you said in the previous chapter, there should be a compliance framework. How to make sure that there exists a proper system. So I'm not going to discuss on the same. We have already discussed that there are various steps you need to do, like identify the law, risk assessment, risk monitoring, and then doing the compliance monitoring and compliance reporting. That was the answer to 2 questions. One was how to prepare a chart, compliance chart. Second, role of a company secretary in framing compliance framework. Third, this answer remains same for establishment of compliance management framework. So this is same for all 3. Next question comes, sir, how does this process of reporting flows? I will say again, we have done in the previous chapter, the process of reporting flows back-to-back certification. If you remember that, subordinates will give certificate to functional head will give it to the CS or CFO, then it will be reported to the board. So it is more or less similar what we have studied in the compliance reporting. So I'm not touching that area. Now another question comes. Sir, what can be different type of compliances? A question. Sir, what can be the kind of compliances? Then my answer will be that compliances depends. It can be entity wise. Entity wise, maybe say for example, private company, public company, Section 8 company, OPC. I am repeating again. Private company, public company, Section 8 company, OPC. This can be entity-wise compliance. Means a compliance which depends on entity. Second, the compliances may be based on activity-wise. Sir, activity-wise means, say for example, if company is a banking company, if company is an insurance company, if company is an NBFC, if company is a cheat fund company, if company is a producer company. This is called activity wise. So, sir, compliance can be of different types. Yes, it depends on the nature, and this is on the nature. It can be into different types. Like I told you, entity wise, it can be different types. Activity wise, it can be different. Sector wise, it can be different. Like for agriculture, there may be some different set of law. For construction, there will be a set of other law. For mining, there will be other law. For real estate, there will be other law. So it depends on sector also. What are the sectors in which the company is operating? Then it can be industry wise. Means based on the industry, it can be of different type. So this is on the basis of industry, like it can be agriculture, mining, water, manufacturing. Some people sometimes do raise a question, sir, हम लोग इतना पढ़े, but we always think industry wise and sector wise more or less same. No, sector wise is more or less a small branch, and industry wise there is a wider one. So the question to this was, what can be the different type of compliances? So never straight away people, I have seen the people writing straight away. Like when people ask you, okay, what are the different type of compliance, they straight away write. Compliances are of two types. One is of on the corporate related, second related to the voluntary adoption. Then they start narrating that. Answer is wrong. You need to write compliances can be of various type depending on the nature. Like precisely in short, depending on the entity, a company, or the body, it can be of different type. Like for private companies, it will be a set of different law. For public company, it will be a different law. For Section 8, it will be a different law. For OPC, the one-person company, it will be a different. Similarly, on the basis of their activity, it can be further segregated. Like they can be doing a business of NBFC, they can be doing a banking business, they can be doing electricity, that is basis on their activity. Then they can be basis on the sector, in which sector they are operating. Say they are operating into the power sector, real estate sector. So these are the sectors. Then industry overall, maybe agriculture, aviation, mining. So, sir, compliance in short is not small, it can be of wider, it can be a number of types. Similarly, it depends on the state and local law. Say some law local may be applicable here, which may not applicable to the other local state. So it depends or vary from state to state. Now, in your next book, you will find there are different compliance chart given for those company. The private company में क्या क्या है, public में क्या क्या है. We will not take it because we will cover in our next part whenever we'll discuss. So this is your chart given normal compliances. It's just like you need to study. This I'm not taking it. Now I will take you to the next after doing this chart. The another important part, because I told you you should focus on one aspect only, that we are talking of a good compliance management today. So we have studied, sir. You only told us at the very morning we started that for good compliance management, there are certain things like you need to have a good compliance chart, you need to have a good compliance reporting, you need to have a good compliance audit. Yes, and we have studied all this. We have studied so far how to prepare chart, how to update the chart, how to reduce the risk, how to make a good role of company secretary, what can be the different kind of audit will be there, like regulatory and proprietary, how the compliance management helps the company, like building up a goodwill, etc. No build up of goodwill, like build up of brand image, etc. So these are the different another aspect we have studied. Next is that the important aspect of reading this is documentation and maintenance of record. Like say for example, I have maintained all the chart and everything, every system is there. Now policies are there, set of rules are defined. I have defined the ownership. Beside this, I need to ensure that there exists proper documentation and maintenance of record, because these are more or less as equivalent important as like a compliance management is. If say for example, my documents are not in my custody, how I will ensure that this document part is going to be an effective tool for the compliance management. before I proceed, a question may come in the mind of a old syllabus student. I am repeating it. The old student, old syllabus student, those who are on this, they will think of one para here. They will say, sir, we do not think that this document system will come into our part, because we have done the compliance management, the end chapter, the chapter 12 of our old syllabus. We do not find this documentation management anywhere in our curriculum. I know that it is not there in the curriculum, but I will precisely say to attend this also, not for the reason to see me only. For the second reason, that if you read the secretarial standard, there is some law which deals with clearly, means keeping the data, keeping the records in your custody. And how does this records help you is I'm going to discuss in this chapter only. So I will say, irrespective whether it's there in your syllabus or not, because you will find it in, no sir, we do not see it's there in the syllabus. I will say better attend it, because this is for sure going to help you when you will be answering this in the future. So next question comes is how this database management is going to help you, and how does the company secretary plays a role in this. See, documentation is not only important for good compliance, it is important for a normal life also. Like in our life, I told you, if you write down everything on the paper, if I am going to the shopping and I write down entire thing what I'm going to purchase, then what happen? I will be able to purchase everything. I will not forget anything. But if I do not make a list, say I have gone out to the market for purchasing 10 products, maybe by the time I will return, I will find that I have only purchased 8 products instead of 10. Why? Because I skipped 2 out of my mind. But if I made a list, then I will come back home with 10 out of 10, because documentation is there. So documentation is very important. How documentation is going to help you? First, you read that. Like I always say, whenever you study something, uh, why you should come into mind means, because the more you ask the why, that means you are going to fly high. And for every curiosity and to keep flying high, you should ask why. So I always say, for the documentation part, a first question which came into my mind is why documentation is important, sir. First, it helps you in better rendering of client service. Say you are as a practicing professional, you will be able to give the client services in a better way. Like your client tells you, आज आप client का काम किए, you have done tens of work. Tomorrow your client will say कि okay वो वाला जो minutes किए थे, I need that minute and I need a resolution which was there in that minutes to be incorporated in this minutes also for the purpose of our board meeting. Now you will be confused, because if you do not maintain the data, how you will retrieve? So it helps in the client service. Next, it helps you in the communication. Means you communicate better way, because you have a data, so you make it like it makes a better route for communication. It makes you more accountable, because there is a document we record. If say for example I say you that when we receive something in email, we will work immediately. But if I tell you over the phone, okay, ask kar lena, so you may or may not. But if you write it, if somebody has written you over the mail, you will say, no, boss, aaj hi karna hoga, otherwise I will be held responsible. That is called accountability. Next is the professional responsibility, because it will show that you are a responsible professional if you document the documents properly. Sometimes it is legal requirement also. Like we all know, we need to keep the minutes for every future. We need to keep the annual returns in record. We need to keep agenda. We need to keep agenda paper. All these are legal requirements. So sometimes legally also we need to have a document. And lastly, it helps you a lot in two things, that is research management and resource. Research, research management, research and resource management. Basically, research is helping you, because basically research is helping you in keeping the data for your future. Like it may be useful for your peer review. It may be useful for the next professional who evaluates your work or who evaluates the company in future. And resource management, say for example, somebody has come into your system, joined the organization newly. So from the documents, he can find out that how the things used to be done, how it is to be done, who needs to be approached, where the information to be kept, who it will be reported to. All these things comes in the paper. So simple layman answer. If somebody asks me, what are the benefits of documentation? What is the purpose of documentation? I will say good communication, client, it helps in a better client service. It helps in making accountability. It gives me more responsibility. It gives a research opportunity. It gives a resource management to the upcoming generation. Yeah, that is what somebody told me to remember it in a way where we can remember it in a easiest way, like using some using some like short forms. Definitely, even I was just thinking of using this short annotations, so that it it gives in your mind for future. I'll use that. So from henceforth, I will just guide you on that. Now, there are some guiding principles of good documentation, like good documentation, bad documents both. There are some guiding principles. Whenever in exam, some guiding principles comes, it will come for 2-3 marks. But remember all C's. Like whatever C words comes into your mind, write down the C words के जितने words use करेंगे. Clear, concise, complete, contemporary, consecutive, correct, comprehensive, collaborative, confidential. So in short, use all those words, and more so, I will say, remember 2 or 3 words very easily. Somebody is writing that, sir, tell us the tricks only. Tricks, I will tell you wherever required, don't worry. I have a lot of many tricks, and my tricks, you will find it more surprising that it will always help you in remembering the things. So I will use the tricks henceforth, don't worry. Now, how you will return that, what are the guiding principles? The guiding principle is all same, and more so all the good. Like say, for example, I will say start with first documentation. Obviously, think from your perspective. It should be clear, concise, and it should be confidential, correct, comprehensive. So if these 5 you remember, then you have nothing required to be done further. Like clear, concise, complete, comprehensive, correct, and confidential. These are the some principles of good documentation. Now, these are the guiding principles. Again, repeating guiding principles. A good examples of documentation is documentation which is recorded properly at a proper time. It is complete, and when they are superseded, then the documents which were used in past will be retained for some time. Then documents should be legible, and legible in the sense I mean to say when we write the answer, our answer pattern should be legible also. See, this is the good documentation practice. So you should learn also some things from here. Like when we write the answers in exam, we write in such a way that nobody should understand. So we shouldn't develop that practice. We should write clear, concise, correct, comprehensive, and clear. And see, this documentation will help you in your examination part also. I'm giving you the tips, not tricks, but giving you the tips how to score high in examination by following this practice in your life as well. Next is the examples of poor documentation practice. Right opposite. People do ask me, is a poor deposit wala kaise yaad kare? How to remember poor deposit? If you have remembered the good one, just write the reverse. Say, for example, document with errors, write overs, not legible, clear, recording is not proper, not sequence. All this, just write the opposite. Synonyms, antonyms, if you have done in our life, just write opposite and you will get answer of examples of poor documentation service. There's nothing new. Next comes how you will store these documents. See, the documents can be stored in physical, in electronic. And when you store the documentation, the process is called document management system. So henceforth, throughout this our classes, in all the chapters, whenever if by mistake or intentionally I use the word DMS, then you should be able to understand that this DMS, I mean to say, is document management system. Again, I am repeating that this DMS is the document management system. Then this DMS, the document management system, how like it is working? Like, is it necessary to have it in an electronic form, or we can have it in the like hard copy form, or you can say proper physical record? See, document depository system, the management system can be in both. It can be in hard copy, it can be in the soft copy. There is no such way that it has to be in hard copy only or it has to be in the soft copy form. It can be in any form. There is no nothing bar that it has to be in electronic, and electronic only known as a document management system. It can be both physical and hard copy. Sir, how does it is going to help us? Again, I will tell you what is it is going to help us. Similar like that, what advantage we have studied for the good documentation. If you remember at the very beginning, we have started with that how to use the documentation as a best, like at the very beginning of this subject. The purpose of documentation: good client service, communication, accountability, responsibility. It helps in research and resource. The similar example, the advantages here are there. Advantage of DMS. नहीं sir, यहाँ पे तो I can see different, like they're saying you can do the tracking of check-in, check-out by the officers. You can see the audit trials. Yes, I will say beside those points, add 2 or 3 points. This is called the trick. Like use that point only, these points which will help you DMS. Use the points that DMS helps you in 2 more points. One, it is keeping a tracking of who is accessing the document. Like when you create a physical record, so you know who has gone into the system, who has taken the copy from there. Like library, why we have a library? Library, so many books are there. How do you maintain the records of books? Like if I am going to the library, if I am taking one book, the librarian will take a record. The next day I go, he will say you have one book with you. So keeping a record, the record tracking on means record. The second is it is helping in ease in audit trial. Audit trial means, say for example, I need some documentation, ready document somewhere. I need to have the examinations of documents, whether these documents are in the system or not. I can immediately go there and find it out. That is called the advantage of DMS. Next question, many times a chances is there. Advantages of electronic record, how it is going to help you, like what is the benefit of electronic record? The word electronic means the benefits of electronic record, I will say itself is there in the word called electro. Just remember the word electro. As you were saying, some of the tricks I am telling you to remember the word electro only, and it will help you get what is the full form of electro. Means whenever somebody asks you what are the benefits of electronic records, say the answer is electro. Sir, what is the electro? First E is ease of use. That means if electronic records are there, it can be used from anywhere. Now during this COVID time, you must have understand, like those organization whosoever is where working was going on, have changed the environment to work from home concept. Means people are doing work from home. Clear? So this is called doing work from home concept. and this process is called like concept of doing it on the electronic mode only. So it is first facilitating ease of use. Otherwise, just imagine those companies which do not have any data on the system, what they will do? They are gone. They have no option other than to cry, other than to go to the office and going and checking the documents there and there only. So that is the first thing. Okay, that is called ease of use, electro, L. L is labor saving. Because see, if hard copies are there, don't you think? First, I will ask you to do stapling. Then I will ask somebody to punch. Then you will go to the filing. Then keep the filing records. So L stands for labor saving. Next, E is effective. How it is effective? Effective is it is in the form of cost effective. Clear? Electro, EC, effective for cost, means cost effective. You are not going to incur so much of cost what you will require for physical. Like for physical, not only stapling, you will be required file, stapler, puncher, a person to track a record of document, a person who will be the custodian of the physical room. So this is in help. This helps in cost effective also. Now, after this E, ease of use, L, labor saving, EC, effective for cost. Sir, what is the use of T? T is tracking. Means whenever you change the documents in the electronic form, it gives you the entire detail. You can keep a check on what how does the data has been changed or not. That is called pre-tracking. Then you will say, sir, what is RO? RO, I will say, is a way of remembering portability. Means you remember the portability is what is deriving from the RO. Like you can keep this electronic documents anywhere. Say for example, I have a documents of all the offices reserved on my server of office, means office server. Then even if I'm at home, I can log into the office server and get the documents whenever I want. So this is the benefit of using electronic records. In short, remember it in a way electro, and it will help you. What are the disadvantages? See, nothing comes free for free. Kabhi khushi, kabhi gum. Means there will be some good, some bad. So even if it is good, there is a risk like software risk. If, say for example, I am working from home, but my software is not allowing me to download this document, do you think that I will be able to download this document? I will not be able to. That is the first problem. Second, there is a risk of formatting. Means there is a risk somebody may hack it, somebody do a formatting. Like ये तो सब आप लोग भी अच्छे से जानते होंगे. There is a risk of this. Then there is a risk of reliability. Means when you are giving the access, say for example, I have shared the password. Now you do not know who all can log in from offsite location, who all can be shared with the password. Like nowadays we are attending so many sessions or seminar through Zoom or through the WebEx. Just give me a second. Just give me a second. So this is called the disadvantage of electronic system. So there are some advantage and some disadvantage. Now with this advantage and disadvantage, when I will go for this comparison between virtual and data room, you will be able to answer on your own. Like say for example, when I find out the differentiation, examination question will come. What is the difference between virtual and physical data room, and how the physical and virtual data room are different? So I answer will be that first, form of document. In physical, it will be in hard copy. In virtual, only electronic. Security, it will be with the person in charge, and it will be with the ID password. Electronic will be with the ID password. The next difference can be for the cost. Which one will be having high cost? Physical, because there will be requirement of file, stapler, puncher, a person as a custodian, whereas electronic cost will be low. Sir, who will require more time? Whether hard copy retention is more time taker or electronic? Hard copy. Because hard copy you will take a printout, then it will be filed into the system, then file will go to a place. Whereas in electronic, it will be immediately done. It will be done immediately. Once you done the system, like say for example, I have created a policy. The policy will be uploaded successfully on an electronic tool. So time is lesser in electronic. Which one is more convenient? Convenient is electronic. Why? Because electronic, say for example, I do can control find, but in hard copy, I have to read the entire documents. I have to go on through the hundreds of pages. So convenient wise, electronic is more better than the hard. And then the next is the accessibility to data room, that whether you can access to the data room or not, then in physical, there is a good chance that there will be, since a custody in charge person, then the person may bar you from entering. However, in electronic mode, it can be like accessed nearly any time, it's 24 into 7. Whereas in hard copy, like it will be said particularly when office will open, then only the person can inspect. Electronic copy, you may even inspect at 1 o'clock in the night. There is no bar, provided you have a right to access and you have the password and ID. So these are the few of our differences that you should remember it. Then second thing, when you enter the hard copy, the security may be a lag in portion. This is a new difference. Like I'm just giving you a security may be a problem here. Say for example, you have must seen many kind of a movies drama. I have entered the secured room. After entering the room, you know what I've done? While seeing the documents, I've clicked the pic. So I have the access to the document. Whereas through electronic, what the problem will have, because when I will do the electronic mode, I will not be able to copy it, because you nowadays can see with the so much of electronic things, there is a process that they will not allow you to have this process. Like say for example, I am just trying to download the copy. They may not allow me to download. Say for example, I am trying to take a screenshot. They may not allow me to screenshot. So these kind of a security can be more there on the electronic, is not there in the hard copy. The risk of like say for example fire etc., which will not be there for the electronic. Electronic there will be a risk called software, or you can say formatting, which will not be there in the hard copy. Now the next important feature in the documentation is a coding and nomenclature. The question may come, how coding and nomenclature will help you, or what is the role of coding and nomenclature in keeping the good documentation, or write down one of the important aspect of good documentation. Your answer will be the one important aspect of good documentation is coding and nomenclature. Here in this, I will not going to discuss. I'm not going to discuss in detail, because most of like almost every one of you is aware. Like when we save the file, if we save the file like in a haphazard manner, then with the name you will never be means able to identify that what exactly it relates to. Sometimes it becomes very difficult to identify the document by way of a name. So that is why the five can be of two types. Means the one is descriptive, which says the name itself will give you all the information. Second is the non-descriptive, means there will be like a random generated number, the file, the source, etc. will be mentioned, but you will not be able to correlate it where exactly it means to. However, sometimes non-descriptive file are like system generated file. Say for example, I have submitted an application. So my application number is 10037. So maybe after that submitting application, an acknowledgement will be generated, and that will have a code of application number 10037. That is okay. That helps us. But without having a proper name, proper narration, it becomes very difficult to identify the file. And then why this is a problem? Because you will then find out from all the search box, you will open one by one file and will find out from the system that which file is more relevant for you. So this is why the reason it is said coding and nomenclature is important. Some people are saying this, sir, again, interrupting in between, sir, you are available on YouTube. Why you want to hear me again? Because they find it much so interesting. They're saying available on YouTube. I seriously do not know as of now whether I can do the same or not. That institute will guide you. But right now we are discussing live on an interactive mode. Coming back to the coding and nomenclature question, that there are some essential things that be unique. The file name should be unique. File name should limit the character length. Sometimes you will find people save the file name with such a big name. Say, for example, copy of agreement done on 10 June, last version. Now you just remember when you will see the file icon on the electronic system, you will only get a small narration. How you will get the information from a small narration? So better to write the informations in a limited character so that it is identified. That is the advantage of using the coding and nomenclature. There are certain examples giving in your study mat, like don't use extra long folder name, put sufficient elements in the name itself, like your name should report itself. There are given a do's and don'ts. So I say, for example, you have saved it somewhere ABC report. Now, which report it is, you do not know. So, good example is writing it as a search report. You will understand, okay, it relates to search report. Using hyphen when you are segregating the like word. Say, for example, it is a policy on RPT. So, separate with the hyphen so that you will understand. When you are using the year should come first. When in any file, why year should come first? Because sometimes, for example is given in the study mat. You are writing trial balance, then you are giving year. Now, when I do the filter, I will not able to understand from the year. Better way is that first write the year so that from the year you will get information. It is 2009, 8, 7, 6, and then give the trial balance. That is the proper way of coding and nomenclature, which is there given on this document. Next is, what are the safety and retrieval of records? Again, safety and retrieval of records depends on the review, inspections, informations analysis that we are not going to discuss, like we have since mostly covered. The another essential thing which I will touch upon is the care of good records. The care of goods record is again depends on three factors. Like we have studied at the very beginning when we are studying the compliance management, three things. So the care of good records depends on three factors. One is keeping the records together at one place, means the document should be there. Second is ensuring their life cycle, means operate the documents on the basis of their life cycle. And third is record preservation, how to keep the records in a proper way. These are the three ways of keeping the records in a good way. These are the ways of keeping, not the benefit. Again, the question is, what are the ways of keeping the records and archives in a good way? What are the ways of keeping the records and archives in a good way? There are three. One, keep all the document together. Second, define their life cycle. Third, preserve the record. Keeping them together helps you in one single repository. Say, for example, I have to take the documents. There should be one room. If I have a 10 room of 10 different papers, then I will go all the 10 rooms. It should not be. So one document, one repository, one room, one server. Next, life cycle. The document pass through three cycles of their tenure. One, there is known as a current phase. That means when they are required too much. Like say, for example, I'm doing some work. these document will be of much requirement, like trial balance during the year. So if I am making this balance sheet for this year, then trial balance I will require as and when. This is the current phase. Semi-current phase means this will become thoda relevant for me, not that relevant. Means I may often require this document, but not every time. That is called semi-current phase. And third is non-current phase. Means I will not require that document that frequent now. So more frequent current phase, less frequent semi-current, and infrequent, that is non-current. So these are the way of, or you can say the life cycle of a document. So three ways of keeping the record in a proper way. Keeping together, ensuring life cycle. Because with the life cycle, you can determine, can I pass this document to the server? Can I keep this document in server now? Now this document, why inside life cycle is important? Say for example, current phase. Then I need to share the password with everyone. But if it becomes non-current, that means lesser required, then I will share the password with the departmental heads only, so that no one access the documents every time. Okay, that is called the ensuring life cycle. Next is record preservation. How to preserve a record, be it a physical or be it electronic, for how many periods it should be preserved. In your LODR, that listing obligation and disclosure requirement, there is a policy requirement that you need to form, and you need to have a policy as per regulation 9, and thereafter then further 30 regulation is there, which talks about the website archival policy. So the documents sometimes we preserve on the basis of our requirement and sometimes on the basis of legal requirement. There are two reasons for preserving record. One, for our own requirement, that we need the document. Second, for regulatory requirement. Regulatory, under the Regulate Companies Act and SEBI, they have defined a time period for retaining all the documents. What are those documents that we should retain for a particular time period? So there we need to comply with the time period, and for the other things, we are not required to comply with the time period, that we can take a call. So company are required to have a policy. The LODR is applicable to listed company. LODR means listing obligations and disclosures requirements. That says the company should have a policy to ensure that there is a proper preservation of record. Now, on the basis of policy of this documents and archival of documents, you need to frame a policy. Now, there can be three ways of keeping the documents, preserving the document. This is an example of policy given in your study mat. See, first part, whenever you draft a policy, say for example, I'm dealing with more or less, I'm touching the part of drafting also. A question comes, draft a policy on preservation. Or say for example, draft any policy. So always remember, first part should be the purpose. And ये सब चीज मैं जब बोल रहा हूँ, and trust me, these are not your study material, so write it in that way of drafting policy. First, there should be purpose. Second, there should be the actions, actionables. Third, the responsibility. And fourth should be the review. Whenever you are asked to draft a policy, it will help you in your management life also. Whenever you have been asked to draft a policy, first, purpose. Second, actionables, that how you are going to take a call. And third is that responsibility. Fourth is review. So here we are discussing on the policy of preservation. So see, basically you need to have three criteria. One, where documents should be preserved permanently. That is part A. Second, where the document should be preserved for a period of 8 years. Because under the law, if you read, you will find everywhere the accounts to be preserved for 8 years. This should be preserved for 8 years. So 8 years is another criteria. Third, there should be documents which require a preservation of 3 years after the completion of the event. So these are the basis of taking a call. Even you may decide to add another point D. I'm saying this is depending on the company. You may add another point D. The document whose preservation shall be for a period of 1 year, and you may decide that also. Nobody is going to stop you, but you need to have a policy for preservation of document. So this is the policy framed by the company. Third C, they have defined that all the employees will be responsible for the custodian policy. They have defined that they will do the review of the policy as and when required. And they have also added, because this is the policy drafted in terms of LODR, so they have also added web archival policy requirement as per Regulation 30, which says whatever disclosure you are making on the website should be there for a period of 5 years on the website. Because this was a confusing period. Like whenever we upload the documents, we always think कि ये documents upload तो कर लिया, हटाएं कब? So SEBI web archival policy say that keep it for a period of 5 years. But that is again, a company has to take a final call. So this is the draft of policy has given along with the annexure. By annexure, they are saying the documents can be of 3 types in the policy. Now just have a look that how the policy can be drafted, what are the documents that needs to be preserved. Say the company saying the preservation shall be permanent. Permanent means all property records. We all know the certificate of incorporation, common seal, minutes, returns, they all are required to be kept for permanent. Even the employees who are working, their personal files have to be kept permanent, because you need to understand they have worked in any point of time in the future. There may be investigation relating to those people, so you need to able to prepare those documents or produce those documents. Then there is a document which requires minimum 8 years. We all know example, you can write it very clearly, like books of accounts, filing whatever you've done with the stock exchange. It depends. Filing with the stock exchange, you may keep for a period of 5 years or 3 years policy given. So they have mentioned under 3 period of 8 years. Otherwise, it is not required. For period, books of account, etc. are all required. Payrolls are required to be kept for a period of 8 years. Dividend records are required to be kept for that. Now the dividend has to be mandated for permanent. Now, so this company again for 3 years, this company has divided another documents which are like tender documents, lease deed, insurance record. So this is the call of a company that they have decided for 3 years. Beside this, they have a policy of keeping the notice, agenda notes, etc. for 3 years. So this depends on the company to keep it for a period of 3 years, and this is what they have categorized as a number C. Beside this is the draft policy. For a good preservation, you need to have a record room. Sir, record room is only required for physical? No, record room is also required for electronic. But then for electronic, the record room will be on the server. But for physical, it will be a proper record room. And in that record room, you need to ensure that there is proper temperature, there is proper light, there is proper humidity. Because see, whenever there is really like maximum humidity, or say for example moisture is there, your documents may be tampered. Say for example that temperature is not normal, it is very cold room, the temperature, the paper may be tampered. See, there is no light, then bacterial developments will be there. Bacteria will tore the paper, will bite the paper, and you will not be able to have the paper preservation longer. So these are the 3 measures that you need to take care of. LTH, not MTH, it's LTH, light, temperature, humidity. But for physical, for electronic, you need to care about the safety, password, the software development, etc. So these are the documentation record work that you need to take care of, because as I told you that document management system is a vital. You need to aware of privacy also, limited it to only certain employees who are required to have this information. Don't make the documents available to the normal public. So this is what about the database management system is there. Similarly, there is a bill. You just have a look, personal data protection bill, which will be taken in the next part. Before we proceed, we will just touch this part for 1 or 2 minutes in the next class, the personal data protection bill. Next class will continue in the flow. We will focus on those subjects where we are required to, because I will just like to answer. There are so many old students also, old syllabus student, not old. They are saying that, sir, please do take care of our part also, and they need to understand. So considering their request, I will take straight away, we will jump to the secretarial audit. In the next, I will take the secretarial audit chapter 9. and the chapter 10 and chapter 11. 9, 10, 11, I will touch these in the next class. And as I told you, this class, since first class, I kept it short, but then next class will be in full fledgedly till 11:30. LTH is a light temperature humidity. That what are the requisite for a good room, physical room, data room. So I hope I was understandable to all of you. And to ensure that the old student also benefit from this, we will keep it for the chapter 9, 10, 11. So with this, I take a rest here. Some people are saying that they didn't get the purpose of policy making. Yes, obviously you need to have a policy. Otherwise, how you will understand whether for how long data to be kept or not. Thank you for your such wonderful messages. So I think that is also answered that why we need to have this policy, because otherwise without policy, you know, in India, we don't do anything. Thank you everyone. So with this, we conclude the class here. Thanks a lot, and you can get in touch with me for any query. I've already shared the number in past, and I just shared with you right now also, so that whenever you find like difficult, you can ask me. Thank you, special thanks to all of you for such wonderful messages. I take a leave. Hello. Oh, okay. I've already shared. I think the number I have already shared. Thank you.